Today on Studio One, the U.S. was once the global leader in science. Find out the concern about our scientific future. Also, meet one athlete who is throwing school records out the window. And saddle up and shoot 'em up. We'll watch shooters on horses.
From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Studio One. I'm Monty Cashel.
And I'm Katie Fletcher. Well, there's a lot of information out there about how our environment is becoming polluted.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a big push to, for buildings to get more green and even just...
Right, yeah, people are kind of shaping their lifestyle to, live more environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
Well, actually, later we get to meet a woman that does just that too. She owns a nursery, and we get to see how she makes the plants go green in more ways than one.
All right, look forward to that. Also on the show, the nation's report card shows that most U.S. students aren't proficient in science. Learn why some say it's important to spark an interest in today's youth.
Some say it's hard to find the time to work out. It's even harder for people who sit behind a desk all day. We'll talk to a woman who brings the workout to work.
But first, here's today's news with Stephanie Shire.
Thanks, Monty and Katie. The first congressional hearing to discuss the Colombian prostitution scandal took place in Washington on Tuesday. 12 Secret Service members and 12 U.S. military members are accused of soliciting prostitutes during President Obama's visit in Colombia. Trouble began when an agent had a price disagreement with his escort. This caused a huge scene in a hotel hallway by the woman trying to get paid. The Colombian police attempted to negotiate a settlement. 9 members of the Secret Service have lost their jobs. Some people are urging the head of the Secret Service to resign. Justice has caught up with one of Africa's most feared warlords. An International War Crimes Committee has delivered a guilty verdict against Charles Taylor. The former Liberian president and warlord was convicted on 11 counts for aiding rebels in Sierra Leone during that country's civil war. Taylor has been a critical figure in Liberian politics for decades after he overthrew the regime of Samuel Doe in 1989. Residents of the Sierra Leone capital believe that Taylor's conviction was a big psychological victory for his victims. A sentence hearing is set for May 16. Cities across the country are adapting a new way of using an old form of transportation. Bike share programs and rental kiosks are increasing in popularity. Bike rentals can grow the number of cyclists in parks and other recreation areas. They are available for all with just the swipe of a credit card. City officials say this also benefits those who don't wish to invest in a bike or simply have no place to store one.
I think that it'll increase the traffic of the trail system, but also bring some more opportunities for commuting back and forth. The university students that are here for a semester or two don't always bring their bikes. We did hear from some students that said, I don't bring my bike because I don't have a place to store it.
Bicycle sharing systems have already been popular throughout much of Europe. Cities which have taken part in this new initiative have been significant decreases in pollution and traffic congestion. The net has caught a lot of people, but isn't catching everyone. The internet has become a key tool for accessing services, getting an education, and keeping up with people you know. However, a new Pew Research Center report says 1 in 5 U.S. adults doesn't use the internet. 59% of seniors don't go online, nor do 60% of adults who never completed high school. The reasons given for not using the web? Many feel it's irrelevant, too expensive, or a waste of time. Only 10% say they're interested in using the internet or email in the future. A national poll by Research America shows that more than half of Americans doubt the U.S. will lead the world in science and technology by 2020. Schools throughout the United States show improvement in subjects like English and literature, but for science, it's a different story.
Creativity, imagination, and knowledge filled the room at this science fair.
At first had decided to look at how we could get kids interested in this kind of thing. Colors are very interesting to them. The fact that things are changing.
But the reason for fire, slime, and splatter,
as you can see, you fractured it,
is not to entertain, but to spark interest in young minds.
Well, they're not used to seeing those kinds of things come together, and they find it just fascinating to have something that is formed that way.
Science scores are declining in the U.S., and so is interest.
Part of it is that the children are feeling intimidated about science, technology, engineering, and math.
According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the last assessment done in 2009 reported that 34% of 4th graders, 30% of 8th graders, and 21% of 12th graders performed at or above proficient level.
We need to get the children interested in science for two reasons. We need them to be science literate just as citizens when they grow up, and then we want more students to become scientists.
Since the assessment, 40 states changed the Common Core standards within science and mathematics to be more demanding and rigorous. Encouraging children to have a better grasp on science can make a difference in the future.
Well, hopefully there'll be a lot more discoveries. Just look at all the science that's changed in the last 5 years. So if we can continue with our development, there'll be a lot of nice things that'll come from it.
Sparking an interest in youth with science today can help America get back on track for the future. With photographer Devin Krinke, I'm Brittany Konop, reporting for Studio One.
The northern half of the country reported performing better than the national average, and the southern half reported performing worse. And that's the news for now. Monty and Katie.
Thanks, Stephanie. Well, science can be fun, right?
Oh, definitely mixing different things, and
especially when we include slime and fire.
Right, I guess hoping it either doesn't blow up or it blows up.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go to Kellen Peters now with the weather news.
Thanks, Monty and Katie. You know, you may have heard the term nor'easters bounce around when it comes to terms of weather, but if you're from the East Coast, you might be awfully familiar with it. You know, it all starts down in the southeastern part of the United States, where you can see down in around the Florida and the Gulf of Mexico, or down in around the southern latitudes around the Atlantic Ocean. These strong low pressure systems develop and start moving northward along the coast towards Canada. Now, these features have always been known to create a lot of havoc, where they can produce a lot of rainfall, or if not even snowfall too. With strong winds and intensity, they can be even stronger than at hurricanes sometimes, and they start creating some structural damage, if not even erosion off the beaches. Now, there's two sides of the storm that can create a lot of issues. Now, it is a low pressure system, so it's moving counterclockwise, and it starts bringing a lot of warm air. When it brings up warm air, it can create rain rather than snow, and this can happen over winter months. So if they start having ice around the New York City or Boston area, could be because of a northeaster with all that warm, moist air coming off of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the other side, if the nor'easter is located a little west of land, it can create a lot of, on the backside of the storm, that northeasterly wind flow flowing down the backside. And with that, that's where you get that cold air and will likely produce snowfall. This actually happened earlier this week in Pennsylvania when they got dumped on. So these storms can create a lot of issues. Now, we mentioned the term nor'easter, where that comes from. It gets its name because in front of the storm, it's got that northeasterly wind flow. This is a graphic image that was produced earlier this week of the northeaster that was moving on through the area. Now, a lot of people, or sometimes it looks like a hurricane or a tropical storm because it can have an eye sometimes. Now, it's not a tropical storm because of two reasons. Because there are still fronts that are involved in the storm, and there is a drop in temperatures in the upper level of the atmosphere. So it's not a tropical storm. It's just another weather feature. Now, as for talking about future temperatures, luckily the areas that did get snow shouldn't be sticking around too much longer, because the temperatures in this area are supposed to spike back up to the 40s and 50s. So snow will be melting, and as you can see, most of the United States will be above average temperatures, other than poor Washington up there. Now, other areas seeing any rain or snow, a good thing that nor'easter was moving out of the way in the northeastern part of the United States. Now, we're talking about nor'easters, and specifically famous ones, and it brings us to our weather question of the week, and is which nor'easter caused the nation's capital to shut down? Is it Ash Wednesday back in 1962, President's Day back in 1979, Halloween back in 1991, or Christmas Eve back in 1996. So you might want to stick around talking about nor'easters, how much it can create issues on other people.
All right, thanks, Kellen.
Thank you.
I know people often associate memories with big storms that happen.
Right, and when they're on holidays, it's even more memorable.
Exactly. All right, well, let's turn to more ice. We've got John Schaefer here to tell us about some exciting playoff action in the NHL.
Thanks, Monty and Katie. Famous golfer Chichi Rodriguez once said that he believed putting is 50% technique and 90% positive thinking. But that adds up to 140%, which is why nobody is 100% sure how to putt. You might be able to hit it 300 yards from the tee box, but that means nothing without finesse at the end of a long green hole. Putting is a difficult task for any golfer, including the pros. If you're looking to improve your short game on the course, you may want to envision the hole being bigger than it actually is. A study out of Purdue University shows that people who saw an illusion of the hole being bigger actually made more putts than those who viewed it being normal sized. To most golfers, it comes down to having confidence when they stare down the cup.
What I like to do, and what I know a lot of other golfers like to do as well, is picture that hole being, bigger, whether it be a coffee can. Some days it might look like a 5-gallon bucket, and when it looks that big, then you know your game's on.
If it doesn't work for you, there are many other strategies out there. Some golfers just suggest finding what makes you comfortable and stick to that. It's now time for the Studio One Sports Trivia question. What is the record for the longest throw in men's discus? It ranges from 72.08 to 75.08 meters. Now, 80 meters is roughly about 262.5 feet. So we'll get to that answer later in the show, and that's the sports, Monty and Katie.
Thanks, John. Many plan for the perfect wedding. This requires picking the perfect time to get married, even if it takes a couple years. The ups and downs of an engagement are showcased in the new movie 5-Year Engagement, starring Jason Segel and Emily Blunt. We'll preview that film.
Also, the work week can push exercise to the bottom of people's to-do list. We'll talk to a woman who runs a program that encourages working out while working in. That's next.
The University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Sciences is meeting the challenge of future healthcare workforce shortages. The state's only medical school produces the highest percentage of graduates nationwide who choose family medicine. Advanced degrees are also offered in basic medical sciences like anatomy and health professions like physical therapy. Students learn and train throughout the state.
In that way, we really are North Dakota.
Make your choice the UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences.
At the University of North Dakota School of Engineering and Mines, improving the world is our project.
This could be your next road.
Our research helps heat your home without hurting the environment.
You drink clean water because of my work.
We push technology to improve quality of life.
This field could fuel your car.
Petroleum production can be more efficient.
One day, my ideas will impact you.
I am
an engineer.
Accounting at the University of North Dakota is more than just numbers. It's about maintaining a history of high-quality education and developing leaders in the accounting profession. While numbers stay the same, the UND accounting program continues to evolve. UND hosts one of the country's best accounting programs and now offers a master's degree in accountancy. Accounting at the University of North Dakota. Numbers accelerated.
Studio One is a television show produced by students at the University of North Dakota.
You can be a part of the graphics team, the marketing team, news team, programming team, production team.
Training never ends.
You get to produce guests, you get to do the reporting side of it.
It's really worth the experience. You will not regret it.
Help others live to their full potential. Improve clients' mental and physical well-being. Excel in one of the top healthcare careers of the future. Occupational therapy students at the University of North Dakota experience high-quality education in small classes.
You have to come to 45 degrees, even in a normal motion pattern.
Your healthcare career begins at the University of North Dakota.
You're watching Studio One from the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks.
People often say they were active in their younger years. Activity levels can decrease in later years as lives are filled with work, marriage, and kids. Kim Rulifson coordinates healthy living programs for working adults. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you're involved in an initiative called the Work Well mission. What is the mission of that?
The Work Well program is for staff and faculty here at UND, and the purpose is to
provide them with information, resources, and programs that help them live healthier lives.
Okay, and what is your role with this?
My role is to keep the pieces together, so to speak, to provide services, to provide information. So, for instance, health screenings we do with the College of Nursing, flu shots with the Student Health Services, and a variety of other programs all during the year.
Okay, and wellness is a pretty big push now, not only at universities, but you know, in workplaces all over. So this sort of thing is emerging in a lot of different places. Why do you think people need this at work?
Well, I think there's a lot of people more at work than they have been in the past, and many times the mom would stay at home, and so now there's a lot of families that have 2 people working, and sometimes 2 people working 2 jobs. So we're seeing a focus now that people need to have a little bit more at work because they're not able to fit it in when they get home. And besides that, so many people are sitting now, sitting at desk jobs, and so that sitting down for 8 hours is just not natural for our body. So we need to be able to move and do this at work.
Well, it's funny because when I was looking at the information about this interview we're doing, I was starting to feel guilty because I'm sitting at my computer reading. I do that most of the time. And you know, it's said that you can't motivate people, you can only help them motivate themselves. How do you try to create an environment where people get motivated to get up and move around at work?
Sure. There's a couple ways that we've been trying. It's definitely a focus of us to try to create a culture of wellness so that it's approved or appreciated at work. We're trying to work with supervisors to help them understand that it is important for their employees to do exercise at work. And we have programs that are starting more at departments that have really helped, like a stretching program with the College of the Nutrition Lab, and a walking program with the College of Nursing. So it just has been starting to get more ingrained in the culture that it's okay and appropriate.
Okay, and that was something else that I thought about too. It's like in the, I guess, can I say the old days now, the smoke break, you know, where the 15 minutes people would go out and smoke. Well, now it's 15 minutes they go out and stretch. Right. There is a stigma associated with that where somebody else is working. Why do they get 15 minutes to go stretch? How do you get past that in this culture of work, work, work?
Right, and it's a tough stigma to get past, but I think more and more people are seeing the benefit. For people to live longer lives, they're going to need to be able to move and have the flexibility. And I think as they see their coworkers feeling refreshed, coming back and able to think more clearly, I think they see, well, okay, it's 10 minutes and it's just okay. It's starting to be okay now. So I think it's just a trend changing.
Well, now, how are office exercises different from going to the gym?
Sure. Well, most of us, including myself, I don't like to sweat at work, you know, and come back. So exercises at work, they tend to be quicker and shortened to the point where you can get just a little bit of movement rather than, you know, a whole workout where you're sweating and really doing a lot of cardio.
Okay. What do you recommend when someone maybe it's the excuse, but they say, well, I can't work out at home because I've got this and this and this after work, but at work I'm busy too.
Right. I hear that a lot, actually. It's really about trying to figure out what works best for you, and there's no one easy answer. For someone that's really busy when they get home, trying to figure out maybe 10 minutes where they could do a quick walk at work. Most of the time, you can take 10 minutes at work and it's okay. If you're walking to the bathroom or going to the drinking fountain, those are just quick, easy ways to get it in and feel it's justified. Other people may find it easier to find an accountability partner, someone that says, I'm going to show up at your desk at 10 o'clock and we're going to go for a walk. And so that way helps someone say, okay, I guess I have to do this.
Okay.
So a couple techniques.
And you know, we talked a little bit about the stigma, and you talked about getting supervisors on board. First off, how do you do that?
You have to kind of preach that it's important. And I think it's really starting to see a lot more faculty and administrators that are actually very active themselves. So they already see the value. So for me to talk to them, it's a no-brainer. They just already support it. It's the ones that maybe don't see it as their own benefit, see it as something to do outside of work that's a little more challenging.
Okay. And you yourself, you know, do some of these activities at work. What kind of a change have you found personally when you started doing these sorts of things at work?
Right. Well, one thing that I found, and I think we talked about this earlier, that it's hard to remember to take a break. And so I put this computer program on that gives me a reminder every hour. That really has helped me, one, fix my posture, because you notice, especially if you're at a desk, you start leaning down, your back slouches, so that actually mandated pop-up comes on, I have to turn that off.
Okay.
So my posture's been better. Eye strain, you just take a look away. I think for me and for many people, just that break from your momentum of work to come back, you come refreshed, like, oh, I've got to reprioritize, I'm not getting what I should get done.
So it doesn't take too much just to break out of that routine and get a little bit of exercise, even if it's not strenuous.
Right, correct, yeah.
Well, Kim, thanks so much for coming on, and good luck with your initiative.
Thank you so much.
All right. Coming up, track and field throwing events require momentum, precision, and heart. We'll meet one athlete who has all three. Also, cowboys are known for horseback riding and gun shooting. We'll see a competition where these skills are combined in a cowboy-mounted shooting contest.
Studio One closed captioning is underwritten in part by Options, your disability information source.
What does cancer look like? What about diabetes, heart disease? Medical laboratory professionals are a vital link in the treatment of disease and maintenance of health. They investigate clues found in the body that will direct patient care. The University of North Dakota's laboratory science programs are some of the most innovative, far-reaching, fully accredited programs in the nation. The UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences can help you become one of the few who see beneath the surface.
It's not the size of the woman in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the woman.
This is a place where innovation abounds, a place where dreams come true, a place where creativity is a way of life, a place that fires our soul. Join us for the North Dakota Spirit Campaign. Together, we will shape the future of UND and North Dakota.
Romantic comedies tend to be made from the same basic formula. The couple meets, falls in love, overcomes an obstacle, and then comes the proposal. In the new film, The 5-Year Engagement, audiences see what happens after he puts a ring on it. The film follows Tom and Violet as their engagement continues on with no end in sight. They realize what marriage will bring as they are forced to make sacrifices in order to support their partner. Eventually, what should have been a memorable day turns into just another thing to cross off their to-do list.
I feel like what the movie has really captured is that tug of war between two people, and the compromising and the constant discussion and the arguments that arise and all the wonderful things that can happen to you when you're in love with someone.
The production and directing team also created Forgetting Sarah Marshall. They came up with the idea for The 5-Year Engagement when they were wrapping up 4 years ago. Jason Segel, who wrote and stars in the film, wanted the script to reflect a real-life confident relationship. The question surrounding the film is whether a relationship is right, even if it's not perfect. The film is rated R and hits theaters April 27th. Now it's time to look at the events happening in your area. There are some parts of history that we cling to. We found a woman who honed skills best suited for the Wild West. You could call Laura Pickup a cowgirl.
Yes, born and raised.
Laura has been riding horses her entire life. Recently, she found a new sport to try from a horse's back.
I read about it a few years ago and had wanted to try something competitive again.
But in this competitive sport, skittish horses aren't allowed.
I always talk with the local police so they know what's going on, so people aren't alarmed if somebody calls in and says they hear gunfire.
The chilling sound of gunfire is frightening, but it's all part of the game. Laura is a competitive cowboy mounted shooter.
We're actually shooting guns off horseback. I mean, that's something I think a lot of people think you just see in the movies.
Laura's no movie star, but she's certainly fun to watch. Shooting two .45 single-action revolvers, she attempts to blast her way to the fastest time.
It's a big adrenaline rush, and that's the fun of it. It's so exciting. Well, I think a lot of spectators worry about, is it safe to even be watching because they're shooting guns off of horses, but we use that black powder blank.
The blanks ensure that those in the stands can rest easy, but as a competitor, Laura says every run is unpredictable.
Anything can happen. I mean, just when you think you have a great run going, you can slip and fall.
And as any cowgirl knows,
it's never over until that last shot is fired.
Racing around barrels, weapons in hand, this cowgirl loves the thrill of the game. With photographer Matt Petroviak, this is Katie Mullally reporting for Studio One. Cowboy mounted shooting is the fastest growing equine sport in the nation. Laura and her 12-year-old niece travel nationwide to compete in mounted shooting events. Coming up, the air may be warm, but the water is dangerously cold. Find out precautions needed when on lakes or rivers this spring. That story plus news, sports, and weather in the next half hour of Studio One.
Closed captioning for Studio One is underwritten in part by NDAD, helping others to help themselves.
If this tennis ball represents today's environmental challenges and these puppies are the EERC, then tackling those challenges is just another workday. At the EERC, we're improving air, water, and soil quality, developing renewable fuels, cleaner power plants, and discovering new ways to use our natural resources. And just like those puppies, we'll never tire of the pursuit. EERC, putting research into practice.
Help others live to their full potential. Improve clients' mental and physical well-being. Excel in one of the top healthcare careers of the future. Occupational therapy students at the University of North Dakota experience high-quality education in small classes.
It has to come to 45 degrees, even in a normal motion pattern.
Your healthcare career begins at the University of North Dakota.
This is a place where innovation abounds, a place where dreams come true, a place where creativity is a way of life, a place that fires our soul. Join us for the North Dakota Spirit Campaign. Together, we will shape the future of UND and North Dakota.
Your future depends on this moment. Take the path that leads to your future.
From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Welcome back to Studio One.
Thanks for joining us today. Well, it's no surprise when a college student finishes college is looking for a job, they end up going home and staying with parents for a while.
Right, cut back on some of those costs.
That's right. Well, new data shows it's not just adult kids living with their parents, but also grandparents moving back in as well. And so there's 3 generations in a household. So we went out on the street, asked people, would you be able to live in a household like that? Their answers are coming up. Also in the next 30 minutes on Studio One, Americans do not walk the walk, and it's a growing problem. Find out how a lack of pedestrian life affects health.
And when watching a performance, the usual etiquette is to turn your cell phone to vibrate. We'll go to a play where interaction with technology is encouraged.
Also, people everywhere altering their lifestyles to make them more green. We'll meet a woman who takes this trend and applies it to spring planting. But first, here's today's news with Stephanie Shire.
Thanks, Monty and Katie. As November approaches, the race for the White House is narrowing down. Newt Gingrich announced he will officially end his bid for the Republican nomination this Tuesday. Gingrich is also expected to express his support for fellow GOP candidate Mitt Romney. The announcement follows Romney's sweeping of 5 primary states. Sources say Gingrich is currently trying to determine how he will be able to help Romney secure the presidential seat next year. A year after the tragedy struck the coast of Japan, 16-year-old Misaki Murakami is getting back a piece of the past he never thought he would see again. A technician for a radar station on a remote coast in Alaska found a soccer ball washed up from the tsunami wreckage. His wife was able to make out some Japanese characters on the ball and later determine the school where it was from. The ball had been signed by Murakami's classmates before he moved in the 3rd grade. It had become a much treasured keepsake. A number of objects have washed up on the shore, but the Coast Guard says this is the first reported case of anything being identifiable enough to return to its owner. The ball is expected to make the 3,000-mile journey back home very soon. It is not always easy to know the driving factor behind buying a new car. However, prices continue to be important for the average chauffeur. The average car owner changes cars every 6 years. New reports show that it could take years or even decades before buying fuel-efficient cars pays off. Gas would have to be $8 a gallon before many of the cars could show savings. Auto dealers say it relies on the buyer's lifestyle.
A lot of it depends on, in that instance, how long you plan on keeping the car, kind of miles that you drive. It sounds like the price of gas is going to keep going up. So if I can get a vehicle that's, say, 39 miles a gallon, you do the math and it doesn't take long for it to pay off.
University of Michigan's Transportation Research Institute recorded record high sales for fuel-efficient cars in March. The gas price itself is also a deciding ingredient. There may be a new feel to your steering wheel. Researchers at AT&T Labs have devised an enhanced steering wheel that vibrates, alerting drivers to oncoming turns when using their GPS. A GPS may guide you to your destination, but your brain has to process the information while driving. Inevitably, it can lead to sensory overload. This prototype steering wheel contains 20 small motors around the perimeter of the wheel. When a turn is coming, the driver feels a sweeping motion of vibration in the right direction. The key behind this new technology is to help people arrive at their destination safely without forcing them to think more about driving. What used to be the primary source of transportation has become a last resort for most Americans. One foot in front of the other is one way for Americans to get the exercise that we need.
Of all the industrialized nations in the world, Americans walk the least. A study in the issue of medicine and science and sports and exercise says that 34% of American adults are obese and average just over 5,000 steps a day. In Australia, the obesity rate is at 16%, where they average almost 10,000 steps per day. Experts say that this simple habit can do more than just get us place to place.
It also alleviates the symptoms of depression, and then as well as it reduces your risk of cardiovascular disease, heart disease, diabetes.
There are many that embrace walking and make it a habit for their everyday life.
It was to lose weight, but as you can tell, that probably didn't all happen. Yeah. So now we're going just for the healthy.
These simple daily tasks can have huge health benefits as well.
And it does. All of my numbers are pretty good when I go in and get my cholesterol and everything taken, so it does help.
In our technological advanced society, segways, moving sidewalks, and motorized vehicles have made Americans think walking is a chore. We could be missing out on a fundamental step.
It's an easy way to get those basic benefits out of it and just to get them moving.
By putting our right foot forward, Americans can be on the path to a healthy and happier country. This is Allie Strand reporting for Studio One.
The health community typically urges people to take at least 10,000 steps a day to maintain good health. This is equal to about 5 miles of walking. And that's the news for now. Monty and Katie.
Thanks a lot, Stephanie. Well, especially now in the springtime, you just feel like you need to get outside.
You want to get outdoors and enjoy the sun.
Start walking around more.
Well, speaking of good weather, let's go to Kellen Peters with the weather news.
Thanks, Monty and Katie. If you're looking for good weather, earlier this week, the northeastern part of the United States was not the case. Taking a look at some footage, you can see that this is Lake Erie, and a nor'easter swept through the area, and it produced a lot of rain, waves coming off the coast, and even snow in parts of Pennsylvania. And snow in the month of April, it's kind of weird to think about. The good news is, however, is the temperatures are expected to spike up, back up to the 40s and 50s, so the snow shouldn't be sticking around for long moving into the month of May. Now these this nor'easter that traveled through the area dumped a lot of rain, and you can see on this on the back side of the storm, parts of New York and New Hampshire got anywhere from 3 3/4 of an inch of rain all the way to over 5 inches of rain. And on the other side, well, the colder side with all that cold nor'easter air coming down, parts of Maryland got up to 8 inches of snow, and take a look at that. Pennsylvania got over 18 inches of snow, so that's something you wouldn't expect of this time of the year. Especially with spring coming around early, people are really anxious to get out on the water. In this case, it's not. You've got to make sure you're following safety precautions.
This unusual spring has brought summer-like temperatures, but experts caution not to be fooled while on the water. A fun outing on the lake on a sunny day can become a fight for survival. A slip on a deck or a momentary loss of balance, and suddenly the cold water has wrapped its frigid fingers around another victim.
It's pretty rare to go a year without losing somebody in water situations.
Numerous boating and swimming accidents occur in the out-of-month seasons when the water is cold. On a hot spring day, some people might chance swimming, but the water temperature is still at a dangerous low.
It'd be kind of like jumping into the polar bear plunge or jumping into a bathtub full of ice cubes.
People who are submerged in cold water go into a state of shock. After being in the water for several minutes, hypothermia begins to set in. Hypothermia is possible if the water is 70 degrees or less.
Nobody plans on having an accident.
Once hypothermia is in place, a person can lose consciousness. In most cases, this leads to cold water drowning. Even if life jackets are worn, the chilling truth is hypothermia can still be deadly. With photographer Matt Petroviak, I'm Kara Potasio, reporting for Studio One Weather.
Now, typically the first time to finally go out on the water is around the month of June, when the temperature is on average around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, earlier in the show we were talking about nor'easters, and especially famous ones, which brings us back to our weather question, is which holiday nor'easter caused the nation's capital to shut down? Was it Ash Wednesday back in 1962, President's Day back in 1979, Halloween back in 91, or Christmas Eve back in 96? With the answer B, President's Day back in 1979. So it's interesting, these nor'easters that travel up along the coast can create quite an annoyance to people just trying to carry on their everyday life.
Thanks, Kellen.
Thank you.
Well, that didn't look like a very good holiday for the Capitol to be shut down.
No, it seemed everything aligned perfectly to have the worst possible time for a storm. All right, well, let's turn one last time to sports and Jonathan Schaefer.
Thanks, Monty and Katie. Christine Weinrich is known for her impressive throwing feats on the women's track team. But for Christine, the events are much more of a personal accomplishment.
In track and field, all throwing events have one goal: to be able to throw further than the competition. And the further the throw, the more success there is on the field of battle.
I think all the throwing events, what people don't realize is they're all kind of adapted from old physical feats of war, of strength and war, basically. I mean, throwing stones and throwing hammers and throwing spears and stuff is all stuff that was done in battle.
And this team has a warrior they won't soon forget.
I like the hammer the most. It's the most fun. Disc this year has really come around and it feels the easiest now.
Christine is in her final year on the University of North Dakota's track team. She broke school records in the hammer and discus right away. She says her positive spirit and hard work has helped her coast to success.
It
it's so technical, and just the littlest thing can throw off a throw. So it's a lot of time and a lot of work goes into it.
Last season, Weinrich set a record in the hammer throw with a throw of 160 feet 7 inches, which broke her previous school record of 156 feet 6 inches. Despite her accomplishments, Christine keeps a humble ego.
I mean, it's been a joy as a coach to work with her, and she's stayed positive most of the time and battled through a lot, and I think we got some more big throws coming over the next couple weeks that'll make it even more fun.
With having fun and working hard, Christine aims to achieve her own goals as a thrower. With photographer Brian Gendrew, I'm Jimmy Geffro reporting for Studio One.
This year is Weinrich's senior year as a thrower. With 3 track meets remaining this season, she strives to set the bar even higher for competing throwers. Now the answer to this week's Studio One Sports Trivia question: what is the record for the longest throw in men's discus? The answer is C, 74.08 meters, thrown by Jürgen Schult. He threw it 243 feet and a half inches, so 1986. That's a long time ago to have that record. And that's the sports, Monty and Katie.
Thanks a lot, John. Multi-generational homes are on the rise. More find it convenient to move in with their parents and grandparents. We wanted your thoughts on if you would want to live with your extended family.
Also, traditional theater evokes thoughts of Shakespeare and other classic playwrights. We'll visit a play that showcases popular music and electronic devices.
If this tennis ball represents today's environmental challenges and these puppies are the EERC, then tackling those challenges is just another workday. At the EERC, we're improving air, water, and soil quality, developing renewable fuels, cleaner power plants, and discovering new ways to use our natural resources. And just like those puppies, we'll never tire of the pursuit. EERC, putting research into practice.
Your future depends on this moment. Take the path that leads to your future.
Studio One is a television show produced by students at the University of North Dakota.
You can be a part of the graphics team, the marketing team, news team, programming team, production team.
Training never ends.
You get to produce guests, you get to do the reporting side of it.
It's really worth the experience. You will not regret it.
At the University of North Dakota School of Engineering and Mines, improving the world is our project.
This could be your next road.
Our research helps heat your home without hurting the environment.
You drink clean water because of my work.
We push technology to improve quality of life.
This field could fuel your car.
Petroleum production can be more efficient.
One day, my ideas will impact you.
I am
an engineer.
You're watching Studio One, twice named the best college television show in the nation by the National Association of College Broadcasters.
Technology can be both our best friend and our enemy. It's distracting at times, but it also keeps us connected. In one theater production, social media is far from a distraction.
It doesn't matter. As the lights come up on the stage, actors illuminate. The people watching are expected to behave differently tonight.
We ask that audience members leave their cell phones on.
Social media dominates this generation. This performance uses technology to its advantage.
They can tweet with us or Facebook with us during the show, which is very unusual for a theater piece.
You could be sitting on the same row as someone, but you can read their post on Twitter and, be talking to them and have no idea that they're down there. And it's cool and creepy and weird at the same time, but that's our generation.
Patrick Kluckner lives the life of a digital native. He is part of a high-tech era, but has a dream that has been around for generations.
I really would like to be a professional stage actor, but with theater, it's so up in the air and talent-based. So even though I've been fighting it for a long time, I'm finally on board with that's what I was called to do.
Part of that battle was to create this interactive performance.
It was fun. It was a very individualized thing for each member of the cast, but at the same time, it was a group project and effort. I've never been a part of a cast that's been so unified as an ensemble before.
And unified in a goal of one day bringing performances like this to a bigger stage. With photographer Matt Petroviak, this is Avery Hogasog reporting for Studio One.
Patrick recently purchased a one-way ticket to New York. He's been accepted to a Thummer Theater workshop there. More than ever, families call their kids and their grandkids to the supper table. U.S. Census data shows an increase in households with 3 generations under one roof. In 2008, there were 3.8 million households like this. 2010 data shows 4.8 million. That's a 15% increase in just 2 years. We wanted your thoughts on whether you could live in a multi-generational household.
I don't think I could ever deal with my parents. I don't know. I would never want to live with them.
Just been used to living on my own for a while, so moving back with the parents doesn't sound that great.
I don't know. It depends what state they're in. If they need your help, if they need your assistance, or what kind of financial situation you're in or not, that kind of stuff.
I guess I would prefer not to have a multi-generational household. As much as I love my family, my brothers and sisters and parents and extended family, there's something about having just your husband and your own kids under one roof.
I get to watch them grow. I just love it. It's just, my daughter probably isn't as pleased as I am, but
my girls would never move back in with me.
A comment from our Facebook page from Minneapolis. Gina says, we lived with my fiance's parents when we first moved. 3 weeks was more than enough time to live with the in-laws. Maybe my mind will change when the kids come. Free in-home daycare. Christoph from Grand Rapids, Michigan says, I would never consider moving in back home, but just knowing that I always could is what family is all about. The only rule, move in and plan to move out quick. People often have odds and ends laying around that have lost their purpose. Next, we'll meet a woman who repurposes unused items around the house in a creative way.
Closed captioning for Studio One is underwritten in part by the Listen Center, where meeting friends at Listen is a groovy thing to do and has been since the days of Woodstock.
What does cancer look like? What about diabetes, heart disease? Medical laboratory professionals are a vital link in the treatment of disease and maintenance of health. They investigate clues found in the body that will direct patient care. The University of North Dakota's laboratory science programs are some of the most innovative, far-reaching, fully accredited programs in the nation. The UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences can help you become one of the few who see beneath the surface.
It's not the size of the woman in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the woman.
This is a place where innovation abounds, a place where dreams come true, a place where creativity is a way of life, a place that fires our soul. Join us for the North Dakota Spirit Campaign. Together, we will shape the future of UND and North Dakota.
The Go Green initiative has motivated people to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Co-owner of Shea's Nursery and Landscaping, Darlene Shea, is here to show us how to go green in all aspects of gardening. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I will admit, I don't have much of a green thumb, but I do know when it comes to spring, that's when the planting begins, and I'm sure your nursery is very busy.
We're bursting with color right now. It's a wonderful time of the year.
What are some things people are coming in for here in the spring?
Well, this time of the year, people are planting potatoes and onions, and you can put in your radishes. Pansies are hot because they're a cold crop, is what we call those. So if you do get a cool spot of weather, it'll be fine.
Well, you mentioned some veggies earlier, and we actually have some today. We have some lettuce. So what exactly are we doing today?
Well, I've always struggled with trying to find a container that'll work around my umbrella on my patio table. And usually they're a two-part planter or they're too shallow, and they don't work very well. So I came up with the idea of using a Jello mold that gives you a little bit more depth, and then you can plant in here, and it always fits over your umbrella.
Perfect. It has a hole right there just for the rod.
Exactly, right through there. So the best part, the first thing you have to do is drill a hole.
Okay.
Put some holes in the bottom of it for drainage, and that will keep the plants from going sour. And what we do is we'll add some charcoal. And we use charcoal mainly because we want to make sure that we keep the soil from going sour. And it's very easy to do that it could go sour.
Is charcoal the only material that you can use?
Well, it's preferable because it's a small particles medium. You could also use some shattered pots or old plates, or you could use rock, small rock if you have it. So I thought we'd do today is I thought we would plant some lettuce. This is a great conversation starter anyway, because it's a Jello mold that's being repurposed, but to have lettuce in it, you could have a glass of wine and nosh on some lettuce while at the same time.
So yeah, we are kind of using, a different container. We're using a Jello mold. This kind of is environmentally friendly. You mentioned repurposing. How does this contribute to that Go Green initiative?
Well, we're trying to do, I think it's a national campaign really, is to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And this is one way where we could use something that we probably have around, or the thrift store is an excellent source for it. And it just gives you some other purpose. And the other thing that works, if you watch, is an angel food pan works very well, but you have to make sure that your hole is large enough for your umbrella holder. But this one's a nice conversation starter. As you can see, we've already planted one with some flowers, which, maybe you don't want any lettuce that day. You could have some flowers.
So it doesn't really matter if you just plant lettuce. You can plant whatever you want.
You can plant whatever you want in here. Pansies are wonderful. Impatiens. I mean, whatever flower you like would be perfect in here.
All right.
And then basically what you want to do is take whatever plant you're using and take it out of the pot. You can see that the root system is quite developed, and always open the root system up, because if you do not, it continues to grow rectangle, much like the pot it came out of. And take some of the plant, take the soil off. You don't need all the soil. And we only have a certain amount of depth, so what happens, instead of it going down to grow, it's going to go sideways. Take and lay it in there just like that, and we'll add some dirt around it to hold it.
So when adding lettuce to this Jello mold, how long will it produce in this container?
This will produce all summer long.
Okay, are there any tips to kind of keep it healthy, or is it?
No, I just harvest once in a while, because if it gets too big, it goes to seed, and it's not a lot of fun. So you want to make sure that you have a salad every night, and you have plenty to eat.
Yeah, you just pick it right off the table.
And nothing says you can't put some flowers along with the lettuce. So it would be, that will give you some more color and things like that.
Right. What are some of the challenges, in working with plants?
Well, I think one of the biggest things most people do in our lives is we overwater. And we always say, well, I just can't grow that. And it's usually because we've watered it so much that we've not had a lot of luck with plants. So I think that's one of the first things. I often tell people, if you think it's dry, wait 2 more days. They're better off too dry, because they'll stand right up again when they get wet.
Right, so, okay, we have one example here. We planted lettuce in a Jello mold, but this table is filled with a bunch of different things. Maybe we could talk about a couple of things. I mean, you have shoes over here.
Right, well, the first thing I want to talk about is the chair that I made. And the chair, it's just an old chair that you find anywhere, and we took the seat off the chair, and then I spray painted it. There's great paints out there now for all sorts of colors, and can do whatever you want. And then this one happens to just set a basket in. If I don't set a basket, I'll put window screening down in the seat, and then you plant right in the window screening. And nothing's better than Joey's little boots here that he outgrew the boots, so let's plant the boots and set those next to the chair on the step or in the back patio. What a great conversation.
Yeah, a great way to repurpose it.
Yes, and then I went to the thrift store one day and I thought, well, this is probably the funniest looking shoe I've ever seen, but there has to be something I can do. So I planted it with red impatiens, and I think they're pretty darn cute. So most of us have an old pair of shoes somewhere.
I agree.
That you can stuff full. And then I have an old teapot that is no longer viable as a teapot because it's got some holes in the bottom, so we just planted that up with petunias. If you don't have an umbrella on your patio table, put that on it. It's a great look. One of the things coming up is Earth Day and also kids getting out of school, so I thought, you know, everybody's got a can. We all have to eat something out of a can at some point. So we take this and put some paper on it and throw some plants in, and it's great. Repurpose an old purse, an old coffee pot.
Awesome. You can, you can do whatever you want, to repurpose.
You're limited by your imagination.
Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your creations with us.
Thank you.
You're watching Studio One from the University of North Dakota. We'll be right back after this.
The University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Sciences is meeting the challenge of future healthcare workforce shortages. The state's only medical school produces the highest percentage of graduates nationwide who choose family medicine. Advanced degrees are also offered in basic medical sciences like anatomy and health professions like physical therapy. Students learn and train throughout the state.
In that way, we really are North Dakota.
Make your choice the UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences.
If this tennis ball represents today's environmental challenges and these puppies are the EERC, then tackling those challenges is just another workday. At the EERC, we're improving air, water, and soil quality, developing renewable fuels, cleaner power plants, and discovering new ways to use our natural resources. And just like those puppies, we'll never tire of the pursuit. EERC, putting research into practice.
At the University of North Dakota School of Engineering and Mines, improving the world is our project.
This could be your next road.
Our research helps heat your home without hurting the environment.
You drink clean water because of my work.
We push technology to improve quality of life.
This field could fuel your car.
Petroleum production can be more efficient.
One day, my ideas will impact you.
I am
an
engineer.
What does cancer look like? What about diabetes, heart disease? Medical laboratory professionals are a vital link in the treatment of disease and maintenance of health. They investigate clues found in the body that will direct patient care. The University of North Dakota's laboratory science programs are some of the most innovative, far-reaching, fully accredited programs in the nation. The UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences can help you become one of the few who see beneath the surface.
Tune in next week on Studio One. A group of part-time aviators are building their own planes. We'll show you how they test their aircraft with mid-air twists and turns. Plus, we'll have other news and entertainment stories for you.
We're going to leave you now with pictures of a powwow held at the University of North Dakota. From all of us here at Studio One, have a great week.